Hi, I'm Ryan LaPlante, and I'm one of the crazy founders of Dumb Dumbs and Dice, the podcast production company that's making the podcast you're listening to right now. Now, we're clearly busy. We're producing 5 weekly podcasts and a 6th event podcast, but we want to take this time to invite you to become a part of our company and a part of our Patreon at patreon.com/dumbdumbdice. You can get access to our Discord, access to exclusive DM and character chats. You can get the chance to name characters in our shows and vote on the way their stories will progress. You can even become a recurring NPC and hear yourself interacting with our characters each week through the voice of Tom. You can become a patron for as little as $1, and there's great value for you at even that level. So please, join the Dumb Dumbs and Dice family and help us make even more content in a way that you are guaranteed to love. That's patreon.com/dumbdumbdice. DUMBDICE. So let's do something dumb together, and thanks for listening.
I am Executron, god of merchandising, and I came into existence because Dumb Dumbs and Dice has its own merchandise. That's a god pun. Get it? Dice? Merchandise? Anyways, you can get t-shirts, hoodies, spiral notebooks, clocks, wall art, throw pillows, bags, and even stickers emblazoned with your favorite Dumb Dumbs and Dice characters and their catchphrases. There are plenty of different designs available, so there is guaranteed to be something you love. To show your love of Dumb Dumbs and Dice, go to redbubble.com/people/dumbdumbdice. That's DUMBDICE. One more time for the mortals in the back, redbubble.com/people/dumbdumbdice. Get your merchandise today. All art supplied by the brilliant Decapitated Markers.
Welcome to Dumb Scum and Villainy, a Dumb Dumbs and Dice podcast where professional voiceover actors and improvisers explore the underworld of the Star Wars Edge of the Empire role-playing game. I'm your host, Blotto the Toydarian. This series features our Game Master Tom McGee and voiceover artists and improvisers Ryan LaPlante, Tyler Hewitt, and Adam McNamara. So join our crew of bumbling criminals. See if they turn to the dark side or stay in the shadowy parts of the light and enjoy an adventure in a galaxy far, far away. It's time for Dumb Scum and Villainy. Now you're caught up with the show to come, so get out of my shop or spend money. No credits, only money.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, but a slightly dumber galaxy, still very far away. It's a strange time in the Galactic Empire, with the news of the sudden death of the Emperor, Darth Vader, the Admiral, and the commanders of the Imperial fleet, along with the destruction of the Death Star. Celebrations and mass demonstrations have broken out across the Empire. Also, I want you to all imagine this as like a very long scrolling text.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, we're on board. Yeah,
you
great.
should gradually just back away as you read it.
As confetti rains on Imperial Square and the statue of Sheev Palpatine is pulled to the ground, yeah, that's right. I had to remind you that's his name.
I know it's true, but I hate that the Emperor's first name is Sheev.
Sheev Palpatine.
Sheev. Oh, I think it's Sheev.
Sheev.
Oh.
What a cool name.
Yeah,
Thanks for that follow-up, George. Now I got to pick a new name for my guy. You can be named after him. He's popular.
Wait, your character's name was Emperor Sheev Palpatine? All one word? Comma Darth Sidious?
I didn't want anyone to make the connection, so it was Sheev Palpatine.
Oh.
With a B as in
So why would
David.
you... instead of a P for Palpatine.
Yeah.
In any case, as confetti rains down on Imperial Square and the statue of Sheev Palpatine is pulled to the ground, the citizens embrace a newfound sense of hope, and the Empire begins its crackdowns. Celebrations turn to riots as the Imperials attempt to quell the chaos. They're so busy trying to maintain control, surely they won't notice a few missing crates. Everybody, welcome to Dumb Scum and Villainy, a brand new show from us here at Dumb Dumbs and Dice. I'm so very excited for this because I've been a Star Wars nerd for a long time. This campaign is actually based on a campaign I ran. It was the first D&D game I ever ran.
Oh,
so
shit, that's cool.
We're going back in time. Let's take a minute to introduce ourselves before we get down to it. I'm Tom McGee. I'll be your game master as always.
I'm Ryan LaPlante, and I'm playing Zabraxis Core, who's also known as Brash.
Nice.
I'm Adam McNamara, and I will be playing Waka Waka Fonzie.
Somehow less ridiculous than Sheev Palpatine.
I am Tyler Hewitt, and I will be playing Vic Denbar.
Vic Denbar, great.
I thought you were going to say Sneeze Palpatine. I was like, Tyler, I'll kill you.
So clever.
Sounds like he does like sports for like a news channel.
So Sneeze.
Vic Denbar, sports.
Throw it over the victim bar, Vic.
Sneeze, what'd you think of that free throw? I don't know. Should have gone. Don't worry.
Vic is spelled dumb, so it's a Star Wars name now.
Yeah, just throw in some apostrophes. That's really the way to go.
VI''Q.
Yeah.
Vic.
Miles doesn't know this yet, but all of our kids are getting apostrophes. Incidentally, I actually have an apostrophe in my middle name, so suck it, world.
He's from the future now.
Yeah.
Or the past.
Long time ago. So welcome to Dumb Scum Villainy.
You can expect this laser focus through the rest of the show.
Yeah, honestly, we're still more tightly plotted than Attack of the Clones, so this is fine. Hold me like you did on Naboo. All right, so welcome. Basically, this game we're playing Edge of the Empire, which is the first of 3, and I think there's a 4th one coming soon. Star Wars RPGs put out by Fantasy Flight. As part of their giant Star Wars kind of roleplay empire. This is the first time any of us have played this system, so you will be learning at the same time you learn, dear listener. The system that we're using for this game is similar to the system used in Genesis, which you'll be hearing in our one-shots. It's all about dice pools. So basically, we're going to jump into the plot, and then I'm going to kind of gradually explain the mechanics as we go. But before we get underway, the big one I want to explain is the dice. So in Dungeons & Dragons or a lot of RPGs, you're rolling one major dice, usually a d20, to determine what's going on. If you're playing Cthulhu, maybe you're rolling percentiles. Vampire, you're rolling d10s. In this case, we actually have a bunch of weird custom dice that only work for this in Genesis. Thanks, Fantasy Flight. The Sony of this. So we've got a mini disc player here. But basically, we've got to roll a dice pool. So essentially, the way this game works is on your character sheets, you'll notice you have sort of attributes and skills. So basically, what's neat about Star Wars: Edge of the Empire is rather than going, you're real good at punching things, so just roll to punch things. You can be very naturally strong, or you can be naturally weak but incredibly well trained in martial arts, and as a result, offset that. So the way it works is
like a Dooku or a Yoda.
There you go. Yeah, or a Bruce Lee or a Brad Pitt. Wah, 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 wah.
Didn't see it.
You don't need to. All right, that's just a joke for me. Fuck that movie. All right, so basically the way it'll work is green D8s, which are known as...
Green dose. Ability dice is what I'm seeing
ability dice.
here.
Oh, yes, thank you. I didn't write that on mine, but yeah, ability dice. Those represent your basic pool. So if you just have one or the other, that's what you get to roll. However, if you have... the way it will work is, let's say you have 3 points of brawn and 2 points of melee. So you're very naturally strong, and you're also real good at punching people with stuff. What would happen is you would roll... Originally, you'd have 3 green dice, but because you have 2 points of training, you'd upgrade 2 of those to yellow dice, which give you chances for triumphs and better dice rolls. Similarly, as the villains, I can introduce negative consequences. So if you're fighting someone much stronger than you, you might have... challenge dice put in front of you. I can add setback die and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's difficulty dice, challenge dice, and setback dice that I'm seeing on our side.
Yeah,
I imagine they get worse as they get lower down your structure there.
So the D12s are the worst. That's proficiency and challenge dice. So those can give you triumphs or despair, which are very, very good things or very, very bad things. Your ability dice and your proficiency dice can give you successes, which are what you need to pass a check. The challenge dice and the difficulty dice will add failures. So basically, if you get more successes than failures, congratulations, you did the thing. However, you can also generate advantage and threat. So you can still fail a check, but gain a bunch of advantage. So it's like, well, I try and shoot the guy, but I miss, but I gained a bunch of advantage. So fuck it, I hit the door panel, and the door slams behind him. So he's still there, and he's still bad, but Darth Vader can't get through now, if that makes sense.
Cool. Okay.
So we'll be playing around with this a lot as we go. So... don't worry if you didn't catch all that right now, but I just kind of want to set a baseline for the way the system works because it's stranger than a lot of the other systems we've played with. The other thing to note out of the gate is there are destiny points kicking around. Think of them a little bit like advantage and disadvantage. At the beginning of every game, we'll roll a force dice, which will tell us how many points we're going to have for the game. The way these things work is you can basically use them to upgrade. You currently have 2 available to you. Possibly more. I'll check that in a second. But ultimately, the way these guys work is if you use them, they flip over and I get access to them. If I have them. So it's essentially a system that we can both use to cheat.
Okay.
So if you're like...
If we do a cool thing, then you can do a evil thing to us
If you do a cool
later.
thing, it flips back to me. But currently I have 2 X's facing me, so I can't use these to rig any dice. But if you're like, oh, I really need to make this check, I want to use a point of destiny to try and like climb this wall that I can't climb.
I see.
It means I can use it later to do something to you. But the nice thing is because they're finite, it kind of goes back and forth. Don't hold on to them for too long. The game really works better for kind of using these to give and take. But
Yeah, we want to do cool
Yeah,
stuff.
I like the cheating thing. Yeah, that's
hell yeah.
We're all
that right.
natural born cheaters
Yeah,
here.
let's do that
We're,
right
we're
away.
improvisers and comedians. We don't like rules.
yeah.
Excellent. So that is, I think, all we need to know going into this. So at the beginning of every session, we'll all roll a force dice. In this case, because we don't have official Star Wars dice, we're using Genesis dice. We didn't have a force dice, so I took the liberty of rolling on an app, and I miscounted. So to begin this session, I have 3 destiny points that I can use. You have 2 that you can use. But again, every time I use one, it becomes accessible to you. Every time you use one, it becomes accessible to me. You can use it for things like upgrading your green dice to yellow dice. You can also use it for downgrading my...
Like if you hit us with a challenge dice, we can make
you
you
can,
difficulty dice.
you can
kind of thing?
downgrade it to a difficulty die, or I think you can downgrade a difficulty die to a setback die. So
That makes
basically, you
sense.
can just like scale it.
We can make the
appropriately.
bad things less bad or the good things more good.
Exactly right. Yeah. You can also use them for Deus Exes, but we're going to try and keep that minimal.
Can we counter when you use
No.
destiny points? Okay.
Oh, so it's not like they balance each other out.
Sorry. No. Sorry. You can use... Yeah.
You flip 3, we flip all 5 back. Now you flip 5, and then we all quit.
Ouroboros of hell. No, each one can only be used once, but I'm sorry, I did misspeak. So, for example, I've got 3 right now, you've got 2.
Mm-hmm.
If I burned all 3 of mine, you could burn 2 of yours to counter a couple. So you just can't immediately spend the ones that I spend and vice versa, because otherwise it'd be like, yeah, right, one stormtrooper shows up, you're like, well, fuck it, 10 Ewoks show up. I'm like, 50 Darth Mauls show up. It would just be like a shitty playground sport.
That's a lot of Darth Mauls.
That's how I understand the universe as a whole, right? It's just
How many Darth Mauls?
countless Darth Mauls just show up, right?
I mean, like, realistically, I think you're going to win that fight. He's going to look real cool and then die real easy. Just bring some
long as you're
spare
not
Liam
Liam
Neesons.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. So the 3 of you are all sort of smugglers and rogues of this world. You live on the fringes. And as the Galactic Civil War has been going on, the 3 of you kind of haven't really given a fuck. There are ways that it has influenced you, and there are ways that it has impacted each of your lives. But ultimately, all this business with rebels and the Empire, I mean, the Empire's been around. It's not going anywhere. It's just the way things are. I think with a lot of the Star Wars stuff we see in the movies, the idea seems to be that like everyone is tied up in this galactic conflict in some way, shape, or form. I think for you guys, you're probably like high school students during the Iraq War, where you're like, yeah, okay, we're at war, I guess, but I don't really control the government. I'm just around. And particularly for Ryan and Tyler, the 2 of you are kind of gentlemen of leisure, and you have other schemes afoot. So the Galactic Civil War has influenced you in some way, shape, or form, but concepts like Darth Vader seem kind of silly and outrageous to you. Our story...
running around in a cape.
Yeah, exactly. And like...
I wear a mask. Trust me, it's spooky.
So the death of the Emperor, our story takes place just like very, very soon after Return of the Jedi. So the events of Return of the Jedi have just happened. And it's kind of a big fucking deal. It's a bunch of stuff that no one was expecting. And I think particularly based on the way Imperial propaganda works, the idea that the Emperor could die was just really not a thing that anyone was prepped for. So the galaxy is suddenly in turmoil. But for people like you, this represents a pretty good opportunity. Which is pretty necessary because, unfortunately, right now, all 3 of you owe a debt. So Edge of the Empire runs on a system called obligation. And the idea is that as smugglers and rogues, all of you owe someone something. What's fun is we're going to figure out over the course of the session exactly how that debt came to be and what it means. What you need to know for now is there are 2 great criminal syndicates in an area that all 3 of you have frequented. Basically, think almost a Hatfields and McCoy kind of long-standing blood feud between two major gangs. That said, they're two major gangs of kind of a backwater system. So the rest of the galaxy isn't too worried about them. They're not the Black Sun, the big organization that kind of runs the criminal underbelly of the Star Wars universe. They're more like what I think the movies told us Jabba the Hutt was, which is like a really big fish in a really small pond.
I was gonna say, so not like sector-wide, or are we talking like quadrant and Trek terms, or like system?
Like it's a small system. Essentially, these two criminal syndicates live on two separate moons orbiting a gas giant.
Great.
And they've been at war for as long as anyone can remember. The three of you have taken on a task for a Hutt named Agrippa the Blue. So Agrippa the Blue is a Hutt warlord. The Hutts tend to run a lot of the sort of criminal underbelly of the Star Wars universe. And Agrippa has tasked all three of you with a job that your unique skills can really assist her with. And unfortunately for all of you, you're not really in a position to refuse. Adam, I think for you, she asked really nicely. And who are you to refuse someone asking really nicely?
I like the color blue.
Yeah. And Agrippa, to give you a visual, is a Hutt tattooed entirely in blue. Think kind of the Darth Maul patterning, but if it was in blue and white rather than red and black. And the mark of her syndicate is all of her enforcers take an injection into their left eye to turn it completely blue. So they're a very distinctive band. You guys aren't part of her crew. You're not part of the gang. However, you have all unfortunately ended up kind of needing her help. And it's not that all of you owe like a massive debt to her yet, but all of you have kind of fallen into her sphere of influence. So yes, Adam, she asked you really nicely, and given that means she, of course, must be a friend to Fonzie, you've agreed to go along as an enforcer. Ryan, Brash is you're a Falleen, which is a green, kind of like almost not reptilian, but green
I would describe it as like it's sort of like Gamora from Galaxy is the easiest way to describe it.
With like sharp teeth.
Yeah, but I can change my skin color whenever I want. I love that Falleen.
Very fancy. So the Falleen are the most famous one in Star Wars verse is Prince Shizor, formerly the head of the Black Sun, who died several years ago. They're a very kind of clever and conniving species with a lot of political ambitions. But of course, for you, your family just wasn't quite high enough up. You're one of those sort of awkward middle houses that kind of was close to power but couldn't quite rise. And particularly for you, as the third born, your sister and your oldest sister and your middle brother were both in line to take over the family business. What was the name of the family business?
Core Industries.
Great. So Core Industries was the planet of Falleen is an imperial planet. However, the Imperials bombarded it at one point to stop a chemical agent they'd created in a lab. And as a result, there's a lot of resentment on Falleen towards things. I think Core Industries picked up some good business following the bombardment, but again, none of it really fell to you. So you've fallen in with your uncle, a Falleen named Xanatos. Xanatos is sort of a classic swashbuckling rogue type. He's Cyclops' dad from the X-Men. He's got like a sick handlebar mustache.
Sweet.
He's got a mohawk that he's dyed bright purple, which is like very, very strange for Falleen. Part of it's surgically implanted because all of them just kind of have a top knot situation. But he's always been kind of a very flashy character. And I think for you, the ability to like kind of fall in with someone who was carving his own path was very attractive. And since he also had no stake in the family company, he's kind of been mentoring you. So the two of you have left Falleen and have gone in search of adventure. And he heard of this really, really good opportunity going down. So he made the introduction to Agrippa. And as a result, the two of you have agreed to help for a huge financial reward and an in with the criminal underworld. Help her. What do you think you and Xanatos have been up to? Are you kind of like, have you pulled off successful heists? Are you kind of low bagmen types? Like, where do you think you fall?
I think he's probably got bigger ambitions. My level of engagement was probably smuggling things out of the family business in a thievery sort of way to deliver profitably, because everything has to be run through the Imperials off of Falleen. So there's not actually any trade between Falleen and anywhere else directly, because I was doing some research. Also, the Falleen have pheromones, which make people really like them and make them incredibly both convincing and sexually attractive if they want to be. So a lot of the Empire is incredibly distrustful, which is why they controlled trade. So I think it's been smuggling out like side stuff to sell and then getting more involved in, I don't know if there was some heat or not, but just eventually it was like, okay, this is kind of bullshit score and it's not actually getting me out of the place. So this is probably our first big gamble outside of that I've been a part of. He's told me tales of others.
Okay, so I think the way I'll bring this into line with kind of the timeline of what we're dealing with is, I think, kind of post-Empire, the Empire really started to crack down across the galaxy. Like, the rebels had legitimately struck a couple of times in a very significant way. The Emperor was very unfocused for the first time in a long time. Of course, we as viewers of the movies know that's because he was after Luke and trying to secure the Skywalker legacy. But from the outside, it just looked like the Emperor wasn't really on it. So as a result, the Moffs and the Imperials started cracking down. So I think you were content kind of smuggling things off Falleen. Xanatos left and was kind of like setting up deals. I don't think you were that interested in it, but when the Imperial crackdown hit, suddenly it was, the heat was on and it became incredibly difficult. I also think with the rise of your sister's fortunes, she became much more cognizant. Like, when she took over the business, she became much more cognizant of inventory and that sort of thing. And suddenly it became much harder to move.
Yeah, it just sucked, and I was going to get caught.
Yeah.
And what am I going to go back to, like, hanging out in my sex bed or whatever? Terrible.
Yeah, I think in terms of like a Bluth Industries, you would have been like a Job level, right? Like, just kind of, you're there, you show up, or Buster?
I feel like I may have played a Buster while secretly being who steals from them most successfully.
Kitty?
Yeah, I think I might be a secret, like, Lucille.
Great. All right, cool. Dig that. So this is...
My uncle is the dad.
It's Gob, Xanatos, Bluth. So this is the first time... And you've been off-world before, right? Or are you primarily...
I might have, if there were dealings with the Imperials, I might have done that. Like, I don't think I've actually set foot on, like, other worlds.
Okay,
I've probably just done the
like
ship
maybe
side.
a planetary orbital station or something.
Yeah,
but-
like I would have probably, knowing that I have a piloting background, which my siblings may or may not be aware of, but I was probably the one to fly out. Once Xanatos was gone, then I'm the guy making deliveries to the like hidden freighter within the system.
And I think we can say that your piloting background came from just sheer boredom. You had so much time in Sims that you were just like, oh, fucking... Like, you were the guy with the... What the fuck was that piloting game that was on all the Windows computers back in the day?
Flight Simulator?
Yeah, Microsoft Flight Simulator. You're that guy. You're just like in those, and as a result, you're actually very well equipped for space. You just haven't been.
Yeah,
much.
and then I learned a little bit from cool handlebar Xanatos. Like, as a kid, you're like, what does that guy do? He's so cool. Everybody else here has to, like, wear suits. And
everybody else hates him. He's
track of the stocks.
He's that weird uncle you don't want around.
yeah, he's the drunk guy at Christmas.
Yeah, he does love spice. The drugs of Star Wars. Wicked. Okay.
You want to buy some death sticks?
Oh, come on. He's too classy for death sticks.
Yeah, we have to smuggle those out.
Wicked. So, Fonzie, I think you ended up falling into Agrippa's orbit purely based on kind of your amnesiac lifestyle. You don't really remember where you're from. You just remember waking up in a hospital and hearing the words "Waka Waka Fonzie."
Yeah.
Did you say "Waka Waka Fonzie" or did you hear it?
The nurses there said that when I regained consciousness, those were the first words out of my mouth, "Waka Waka Fonzie."
Excellent.
Whatever that means, I don't know what it means. I don't remember anything in my past life.
Yeah. So basically, you woke up and the nurses were like, "I think he's good enough ish," and just by you, I think did a very mechanical like lock and load montage where you just like strapped on a bunch of gear that you don't really recognize, but that just, feels
It's
right.
instinct.
100%.
Yeah.
So you strapped on your gear. What do you think Fonzie looks like?
I've been drawing a picture. Not while you were talking. This was
Audio,
before.
medium. Oh no, please! I ramble. You draw whatever you want.
Like, I really like Boba Fett, so I figured he'd be Boba Fettish.
That's a fun thing to
That's a
say.
fun name.
I was going to say, so what does Boba Fett look like under that armor?
That's my stripper name, Boba Fetish. He's got like a Boba Fett kind of armor. Because he lost his memory, because he got a lightsaber into the head, if he takes off his helmet, there's a big kind of like metal filling
Nice.
in his head. So 50% of his brain is gone. But he's so tough that he's just powering through it kind of thing. So,
Is he human?
He's human. He's human. Yeah, he's just like tough.
How old do you think he is? Is he like an old dude or like oldish, or is he like youngish? Where are you imagining him?
I'm thinking like he's seen stuff. So I'd say he's 40s.
40s? All right.
Like current Gerard Butler?
Yeah, hey, that's a good one. Yeah. He's like a current Gerard Butler. He's not like Liam Neeson, old man tough. Gerard Butler. That's a good one. Yeah.
Had a lightsaber put through his head.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll, of course, dive further into your mysterious past as we go.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. So like metal, circular metal plate in the forehead, probably presumably on the back of the head is probably a larger one.
Probably.
And
or he just stopped. Like he just knew where to stop and he just pulled it out. Yeah.
okay, wicked. So you're wearing Boba Fett. For those of you listening who don't necessarily know, you've probably seen him because it's Star Wars and Disney owns it, so it's everywhere now. But kind of
I was going to say, I told people to look up Philip Seymour Hoffman and Charlie Wilson's War on a show.
That is true.
As I said,
forgot
Boba
about
Fett.
that, yeah.
Man, I would pay to see Philip Seymour Hoffman Boba Fett. Oh, R.I.P., buddy. So kind of interlocking plate armor, still enough that you're very agile. You can still move in it.
Yeah.
And then kind of a sick helmet. What's the kind of like? So Boba Fett's is kind of like a T of glass. What's your?
So I'm going to reference my picture.
Yeah, please do.
But you have
kind
to
of
describe it,
embellished.
yeah.
I've embellished on the Boba Fett design. So instead of like a little T, I got these kind of like razor like fleur-de-lis on each side, and he has like a little kind of fleur-de-lis up top, and then the bottom is kind of Optimus Prime-y because I like Optimus Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So and he has these cool racing stripes, which I think make him
go
look
faster?
cool.
Yeah. It's the Warhammer rules. They give him +1 inch to speed.
Yeah.
Okay, wicked. So you pick everything up, and just before you go, the nurses, who I'm going to say look like those nursemaids from The Last Jedi, because I guess they're canon now, so here they are. One of them comes over, and she's like half your height, and she just holds up your blaster rifle, and you pick it up, and it feels so natural in your hands. What do you think the name of your blaster rifle is?
Oh dear.
You can think about this. I can come back.
I'm going to call it Stranglestorm.
Stranglestorm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Is that a new name, or do you know the
awesome.
name of Stranglestorm?
I think I'd make it up there. It's just like, here's your gun. It's like, Stranglestorm. And I like, and kind of like lock and load and put it
amazing.
in.
You like rack it even though it's a laser.
Yeah. It doesn't work. It's like,
I'm gonna say like as you rack it on the side, it says like Silverthorn, and it just like as you rack it, it scrapes that name off, and you're like, yeah, Slaughterstorm.
I like Slaughterstorm too. That's good.
What Stranglestorm? Stranglestorm. I'm sorry. Yeah,
It'll change as
These
it goes on.
these all sound like Decepticons, which is awesome. They're all just evil jets.
He has no memory, so it's basically he'll call it Philip one day. Like who knows? Right.
Amazing. So you left the hospital. Of course, this is in flashback. You strapped Stranglestorm on your back, and you mounted your sick hog. You have a swoop bike that was brought in with you.
I was picturing a Gamorrean.
So you get on your swoop bike that I assume has like matching racing stripes to your helmet.
Yeah. Like guns everywhere.
Yeah. A few of them are useful. Most of them are just for show. But like, damn it, you went full Warhammer Orc style, just glued a bunch of shit on.
Yeah.
So you get on that. You pop a sick wheelie, and you took off. However, you were also on an unfamiliar planet. So when you saw basically like, I think you like stopped to refuel outside Agrippa's place, and they're like, "You look tough. You should come in." And you went.
All right.
And she's like,
Sounds good.
I got a job for you. And you're like, yes.
Okay.
Which brings us to Tyler. So Tyler, tell us what your guy looks like.
So Vic is going to be dressed in almost anywhere he goes. He's going to be dressed in like very fashionable, expensive looking clothes. Even like his leisure clothing is like that kind of like fucking like Dolce & Gabbana like model leisure clothing and stuff like that. And then if he's ever out like gambling or anything like that, it's like evening chic and stuff like that. So he's a man of comfort.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you're playing a gambler, is that correct?
I am, yeah.
Excellent.
I'm a gambler.
Okay, so I'm going to say that you were, as a man of leisure, kind of on essentially the Poker Stars tour of Sabak, which is the famous card game that Han Solo beat Lando in. I think still in the new movie,
Yes.
but they
Yes, it was
changed
that.
the rules. Anyway, you're really good at Star Wars Legends, Sabak. I'm sorry, I just fucking love Star Wars.
It's Star Wars poker.
So happy we're here. Yeah, Star Wars poker with Star Wars sci-fi shit on it.
Yeah,
So-
there's a randomizer.
yeah. So you're really good at Sabak, but also I feel like it very much is like a Poker Stars tour where you're like, I don't have to win, I just like be in there.
Yeah.
So you've done a bunch of sort of a bunch of the universe. And it eventually ended you up on Veros, which is Agrippa's planet. So you were basically playing like a high stakes game on Veros, and I think for you, Tyler, a lot of your holdings, you made some for a guy who really doesn't care too much about money. Your family kind of, I think, gave you a bunch of money and told you to fuck off. So you've been doing kind of the Eric Trump tour of just like doing whatever you want.
Yeah, I've done just that.
And luckily,
As I fucked off.
you'd invested a ton of money. Like you put a bunch of money in very good hands on one of your favorite sort of pleasure planets to visit, Alderaan. Unfortunately,
Hey, yeah, what happened to Alderaan?
yeah, you just keep checking your balance, and it's zero, and you're like, okay.
Hello, everyone. This is Tyler Hewitt, just coming at you with a little special offer for you. You know, if you're a fan of what we're doing here on the show, then we have, to borrow a phrase from Jerry Holkins, a patron-oriented experience tailored just for you. If you go to
Patreon.com/dumbdumbdice.
you can sign up and get a bunch of special features that we're not really going to make available to anyone else, so do that now. Well, not right now, but, you know.
But with the destruction of the planet, you lost most of the kind of seed wealth that was allowing you this lifestyle.
Shit.
But I think if you want to play it that way, maybe you just haven't really noticed. So it's the kind of thing where you're like living off the interest of this giant family fortune.
Yeah.
But now that's been slowly dwindling. So for the first time, after playing a high stakes game where you kept buying back in, you felt a firm pair of hands kind of on your shoulder, and were introduced to Agrippa and her major domo, who informed you that you'd racked up a considerable debt, which mysteriously you just couldn't clear the way you normally would with credits from your account.
That's so weird. You guys must have a shitty connection to Alderaan or something like that.
So, like Agrippa kind of like shoots a look to her major domo, who's a Toydarian named Carve, and in Huttese, she's like Utalabuwaha, and Carve is like, yes, terrible reception here. Anyway, you owe us a lot of credits, so I guess you work for us now. That's what she said.
Toydarians are like Watto, right?
They are like Watto, except this one is less of a racial stereotype.
Got it. Okay.
In general, you'll notice that there are...
It would be hard to be more.
Yeah, we will be playing with all of the Star Wars races. However, my goal is to make most of them less bad than they were, starting with Carve.
Fingers crossed we meet Dexter Jetster. Love that diner.
All right. Well, let's go in as partners on whatever this endeavor is, and I'll just buy myself out once I get the money from Alderaan. Okay, I'll entertain this little venture of yours for now, but as soon as this gets cleared up, I'm out of here. You'll get your money.
Agrippa's like, Utaba, and Carve's like, she says, sure, buddy.
All right, partners
And
then,
then-
and I put my hand in for a handshake.
She grips your hand, and it's incredibly strong. She's a very muscular Hutt. She's actually like kind of scary as Hutts go, because normally they're kind of like big and slovenly, but
Remember, she's Agrippa.
I see what you did on purpose there, Tom. 100% intentional.
Dear Classics Minor, it finally happened. I got to use you in a star. Oh, shit, it turned into a pun. I'm sorry. Yep. So you're kind of shown into a side room. You see just a fucking massive guy leaning against the wall, punching a jukebox. So it plays more sick cantina tunes. It's got some dope racing stripes on him. And you also see just the handsomest guy you've ever seen. There's just a Falleen lounging on a couch.
It's weird that's not a mirror.
I realized I never actually described myself.
So what do you see on the couch?
6'1" sort of. If you average out is it Cristiano Ronaldo or like David Beckham, like soccer player style, like
European soccer player?
Yeah,
okay.
But like green like Gamora. I've got like a top knot, but like a pretty tight one. It's relatively short, like manageable, but still clearly takes some work.
Right.
My skin's flawless. I'm wearing like a full length like leather duster kind of coat that covers my limbs. It opens up and I've just got like a metal. It seems almost more showy than actual armor vest underneath, but I have no shirts. It's just like, it's one of those things that like, it covers the abs, but I'm making sure to still show that I have the lower abs over like the low rise.
The little V.
Okay. Yeah. I gotta show it all. So I'm sitting there in the coat. I have sunglasses on, even though I shouldn't. And somehow I found a position where there is like one of the ceiling lights is aimed directly at me, leaning against a wall. And my duster is just like casually thrown aside so you can like see that there are two blaster pistols on my hips.
And behind him is the second most handsome man you've ever seen. He's got a sick handlebar mustache. Unlike Brash, he's wearing very what you traditionally think of as smuggler's garb. So just wearing kind of like tight-fitted clothing that he can still move in. He's kind of he's got a bandolier. He's got a bowcaster strapped to his back. You can see he's kind of got he's wearing gauntlets, so sort of typical vest thing, but bare arms, and then gauntlets that clearly have kind of an Assassin's Creed style blade. In each one. And he's mixing several drinks, none of which seem to be for anyone else in the room. So the three of you are there, and after a moment or two, Xanatos turns around with like a drink in each hand and says, "Well, boys, sounds like we got a job to do. We're all in this, right? We all agreed to this."
Yes, Agrippa and I have called you all together here for this joint venture of ours. I've just recently been brought on board as a sort of financial consultant. Agrippa, why don't you take it from here? I'll let you kind of run your little show.
Agrippa Jim takes to Carve, who Jim takes, I think, to Brash?
I honestly, it's pretty hard to ignore Brad. And I just like smirk knowingly and do one of those hands where you like roll your hand in the air and gesture over like graciously to.
I'm still in your jukebox.
Which song are you trying to find?
I'm trying to find the Cantina song. So it's like
just every time you hit it.
Well,
yeah.
It's playing the song
you
he wants.
don't know you've got it.
Yeah,
I don't know
because
how
he's
to
brain dead. He doesn't remember.
Every time I hit it, it doesn't play the right song.
He just knows there's a song he wants. It's just none of these songs.
I just don't know.
So Carve kind of does the Toydarian version of a titter. He's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I lower my sunglasses and wink.
Oh man, he wasn't ready for that. I'm going to save you all me doing hot voice for a while. Incidentally, Ryan, one of my first memories of our friendship was having to leave voicemails for you, where you had done Jabba the Hutt and Bib Fortuna as your voicemail.
Yeah, I had a theory through out of university where my idea was I hate getting voicemails, so if I make my message leading in about 2 minutes long, then people have to be really committed.
And I was.
Then I started running a theater company. People were like, "You fucking asshole! I work with you. You can't do this." So I had to stop.
In any case, so Agrippa explains the situation as this. And you notice that Xanatos is kind of jumping in from time to time. He clearly seems to have helped plan the heist. But with the sudden death of the Emperor and all of the chaos on Coruscant, essentially riots have burst out everywhere. So if you remember at the end of Return of the Jedi, everyone was celebrating and dancing and on Coruscant, and that was great. But the Empire still lives there, so the Empire started shooting people. So as a result, there's just mass chaos. But also in the chaos, it kind of went from celebrations to trying to put down celebrations to a full-blown riot. And as a result, a bunch of Imperials are trying to flee the capital with as much as they can. And what Agrippa explains is there is she is still locked in mortal combat with her with her rivals. And it's kind of a that fucking small town from Corner Gas that everybody hates and they just spit. Like, she refused to say their name, but like just like her enemies. So you guys don't necessarily know them. This isn't really part of your thing. Xanatos nods very very knowingly. But essentially, these two moons are in twin orbit around the sort of gas giant, which is known as Ico. So basically, both these gangs have been trying to manipulate the market around Ico and trying to mine it for materials, set up criminal operations there, everything else. But because they have two moons who are locked in orbit on either side of the planet has basically become a central fighting ground. It's a gas giant, but there's a number of platforms. And these two moons each house a different criminal syndicate. They have operations throughout the system, but fundamentally, this is the cash cow. And it seems there was some slight a long time ago. No one really talks about it anymore, but it was enough that these people fucking hate each other. Anyway, it has come to Agrippa's attention that there are schematics and a number of other sort of rare fuel-based items that have been kept sort of in imperial storehouses in the palace from the Old Republic. So long before kind of the time periods we've been a part of. They had some like old refining techniques that no one's ever seen, as well as some weapon schematics. And she knows, she's received information from her people on the ground in Coruscant that all of these things are being smuggled out of the imperial capital. As the palace is being overthrown, they're trying to get all of the secret shit out as fast as they can. So this will give her a huge advantage over her rival. She's gently desperate, you can tell, to get it. And she knows that in the desperation, the information she's received is that in the desperation to get all this stuff off planet, a lot of Imperial shuttles are taking off without proper supplies. And as a result, with a little bit of gentle conniving from Xanatos' contacts and some of Agrippa's, the shuttle containing the crate that has sort of all these materials in it happened to leave port without full supplies, and as a result will need to refuel on way to presumably an impenetrable safe house. So your mission is to basically hijack this shuttle en route. It has one stop it can make on any possible route. Xanatos has some connections to various pirate gangs. He's been using them to harass the shuttle enough to kind of force it onto a specific route. As a result, Agrippa has been able to isolate one possible refueling station. The good news is this refueling station happens to be kind of the space equivalent of a red light district. So it does refueling, but it's also a place for shore leave. So there's whorehouses, there's a casino, there's a lot of stuff. Given your unique set of skills, the opportunity for you to actually legitimately show up there as people who might deserve to be there is very high. So your mission is to hijack this shuttle when it stops to be refueled. Given the amount of harassment this shuttle is under and the many hyperspace jumps it has to make to get there, you actually have a decent amount of time to get set up. You need to leave like immediately, but you'll have a few days to get set up once you reach the station. She recommends that because there is a casino there and you have extensive sort of con artist experience and gambling experience, presenting yourselves as one stop on a tour, which is something that Vic, you're very familiar with, and that's part of the reason she enlisted you, and essentially suggests that between Brash and Vic, you come up with a false reason to be there, a false tournament, using Fonzie as your muscle, figure out the station, figure out a way to hijack the shuttle. It won't be there for very long, and the Imperials will likely be desperate and scared, so the odds that they won't want to enter a poker tournament, but it's a very good excuse for you and some of your men to make it on board the station. So essentially, get aboard the station, set up a con, make sure you get a hold of that shuttle and bring it back. And all debts will be forgiven, and friendship will be achieved.
And that's the long and short of it, guys. So we just want to see some focus from you on this. You know, we want to do this right the first time. I think Agrippa and I put a pretty good team together here, so we're looking forward to making this happen.
Xanatos nods and goes, yeah, what he said.
It's working?
You can tell it's a very cloying, like, it's easier to let Michael Scott talk than to interrupt him kind of situation. He kind of winks at you, Brash. It's
Yeah, I take like a data. It's data pad in Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I take a data pad out of my pocket and I just write a note to Xanatos, like where he can see it, but the wealthy idiot can't. And it's just like, if he doesn't know it's a con, he'll play it perfectly. And I just hold it up and I'm like, we're going to run an incredibly successful tournament. You seem like a fellow who maybe plays a little bit of sabak here and there, maybe?
I dabble,
So, you want to win some money? I've got this great tournament I'm going to run on a space station.
It's like holding in a sneeze for Vic, where he like came on being like, I dabble, and he was me like, I'm actually very good at it.
Wonderful. Then I think
extremely good at this game.
So I think you might need to be the ringer for this little tournament, but we could bring you in, let you play some top hands, and get it all going. Hey, big fella music man.
What? And at this point, I've kept smashing the jukebox, so now it's in pieces.
Is it just garbage now? Yeah.
It's a pile. Now I'm trying to put it back together while they've been talking.
Carve flitters over to you on his little wings, and he's like, "This is my grandfather's."
Oh, I hope he doesn't mind. I'm fixing it.
He pulls like a small picture on a chain out of his shirt. And he's like, "Don't worry, Grandpa. He's fixing it." And then he puts it back and flits back over to Agrippa.
Your grandfather is tiny.
He was. He puts a hand on your shoulder. He's like, "You really get me." And then he flies away.
All right, I'm assuming if we bring the jukebox, we get him. So how are we supposed to get to this train station? Oh, lovely Agrippa.
She kind of like shakes her head and she mutters something, and Carve is like, she says, your pheromones don't work on her.
Oh, I'm not turning those on. This is just me right now. And I turn blue. Because I can change my skin color at will.
This is a great insult to our criminal gang.
Oops. I just turned green again. I was like, sorry, achoo. I was just a sneeze.
I have not talked about this with Tom yet, but I'm assuming Vic would just be like, I have a ship. He got here somehow.
Yeah.
I have a ship. I've got my valet ticket here. I'm sure we could just pop on out.
You see Carve very quickly type like a please de-impound his ship.
I was thinking I was wondering whether you'd be like, that's collateral for now. But
to be clear, it 100% is.
Yeah.
So the options, I think, and Xanatos kind of like nods to you because you both had to basically buy your way here. Xanatos, you've realized, Ryan, I think to this point, has a lot of contacts throughout the galaxy, but ultimately you're both kind of cash poor. A lot of the money, you've made a decent amount, but also you're not tremendously liquid. Like I feel like you have dead drops of credits, but it's not like you just have an account you can pull from.
Yeah, no, we're in that range where we've got a safe house, and inside it is like 2 passports and $100, and we don't even have a gun. There's just a clip, so don't lose your gun. Favors trade very poorly when you're asking for money.
Yeah.
As opposed to just favors.
Yeah, and Adam, you have your swoop bike, but you don't have anything else that you're aware of. The only thing they gave you when you left was I think you walked out of the hospital, and the valet's like, "Oh, sir, your bike's over here." And it was like,
"What?" And I was like, "Yeah!" And I revved it up, and I just drove off. Yeah.
And he's like, "Tip," and then you just burned off into the sunset. Do you have a name for your bike?
I'm going to call it the Righteous Indignation.
I know that reference.
Yeah, if I can, unless that's copyrighted.
No, that's great. I don't know what it's from, but I'll take it. Akira?
Bucky O'Hare.
Oh, yes!
But I didn't
Bucky
name it
O'Hare
that. It's
had
written
a
on the
fucking
side.
Cool ship.
Yeah. It's also it's spelled differently to avoid lawsuits.
Yeah, it's R-I-T.
Honestly,
So many apostrophes. Many apostrophes.
This is going to surprise all of you to know Disney didn't give us permission to use Star Wars. That's why our Star Wars has 2 A's.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
One in Star and one in Wars?
Indignation.
Yeah, exactly.
You just pronounced it wrong because you had that brain injury.
Right, yeah. I didn't know it was called that until I read on the side. I was like, oh, all right. And then I just got on.
And then you punched a small rabbit man and rode off on your bike.
Hey! Boom, yeah.
He swore vengeance that day. He'll be back and in greater numbers.
So I'm thinking maybe we can take this fine fellow's ship. And I looked at Xanatos and I read on my data pad again, and it just says, maybe we can steal his ship.
And Xanatos is like, yes, we should take his ship.
I completely agree. All right, so we'll ride with you, my new talented gambling friend.
What's the name of your ship, Tyler?
I was thinking of a completely like Vic Denbar move of being like, it is called the first righteous indignation. But no,
You would have named it quite some time ago.
Oh God, fuck! How dumb is Vic? We're going to decide right now. His ship is called the best ship.
Oh no, he's the Zap Brannigan Star Wars universe.
So I just finished playing a bunch of Borderlands. You're just like you're basically just Handsome Jack, and I'm here for it. So you make your way to the best ship.
Yeah.
I think the best ship in terms of vehicles is clearly the kind of thing a rich person buys because it looks nice. Mm-hmm. You've got piloting experience, Ryan, so I think you immediately see that this thing has a lot of money in it, but not a lot of power.
Yeah, it's the PT Cruiser of spaceships.
Yes, it is. Oh my God, I want to rename it.
The PT Cruiser.
PT Cruiser.
Yeah, so you show up
PT Space
and
Cruiser.
having described it as the best ship, you clearly see like the PT Cruiser on the side. You just realize he just refers to his shit as the best.
I christened it as the best ship, like a boat. So it came as the PT Cruiser, and then underneath you see painted the best ship. You look like a pair of well-traveled gentlemen, and I think you'll find that my ship, and I like knock on its hull, is the best. Underlining.
You notice that he slightly dented the hull when he knocked on it.
Yeah, I reach up and touch the paint, and some of it chips off, and I realize he's painted it on this Earth. It will burn off when we go through the atmosphere, but I say nothing. And I'm just
Xanatos is like, that is the best ship.
I know. Why does this guy talk like an idiot?
well, listen, we're all stupid compared to you. So I think if we're going to travel, you probably need some beauty rest. And I'm like, I look back and wave to Gamorrean guards who are carrying the broken jukebox to the ship so that Waka is just with them inside. And I'm like, maybe you take a rest, give us, the login codes. We'll fly there because, you got to play the game. So,
well, yeah, I don't know where my regular driver's gone, but I'm sure he'll find his way home or whatever.
That's what drivers are for. He's got to drive himself somewhere.
Yeah. So with that, you all board the ship. I'm going to say that you get to take Agrippa's offered you a few of her men. So what kind of people would you want to bring with you? I'm going to say you get 3 people. They can be of kind of whatever you think Agrippa might have. So some kind of specialists. They can be muscle. They can be technicians.
Why don't we pick one each? We'll let it be democratic because at this point we've got a new team. You don't want to step on anybody's toes. So... Denbar, Vic?
Yeah, you can call me Vic. It's okay.
All right, Vic. Yeah. What are you feeling like we might need for a journey of this stature?
Let's go with you. And Vic will point to the most like intimidating looking, stoic, clearly like a man who breaks things with his hands kind of character. Most importantly, though, who doesn't speak because Vic basically just wants to envision himself being like. Like, I think he has to name him too. Be like, his name will be Dibs. And now Vic is just fantasizing about like, Dibs, handle this. And then having his large manservant crush people.
So Dibs looks at Agrippa with kind of a deep despair, and Agrippa just nods, and he peels his name tag off his vest and just throws it to one side.
What was it?
You'll never know.
It doesn't matter.
And he walks over and he kind of like shoulder nudges you, Vic, and he points at the jukebox, and he starts he pulls out what would be a keychain on a smaller man, but on him it's like a full size wrench, and he kind of like
spanner.
Yeah, and he just kind of shrugs at you like, huh? So then he pats you on the back, and he starts also working on it, keeping in mind that this jukebox is still being carried up a ramp. So it's the two of you working on it. Well, no one, the Gamorreans are just like, oh boy,
friend,
just
good.
Monster Man. What is your name? You
Waka Fonzie. But my friends, are you my friend?
I think that is a very safe bet. I think we're the very best of friends.
Well, then you can call me Fonzie.
All right, Fonzie. Now, we've got this selection of people before us, and I pointed a bunch of beings that I did not pay attention to because I did not need to. They were not important until now. And I'm like, what kind of other friend do you think would be useful for us where we're going? We've got a very big, punchy fellow We've got you. You seem pretty tough. We have Vic. What a brain on that man.
Vic's already gone.
I say we have Vic. Yeah. He's disappeared, and I'm like, perfect. Okay, what do you
calling for dibs?
Yeah.
What do you want? The idiot left.
I want that mechanic because I want somebody to fix up my bike while we fly.
So you see I don't even know what species they are. That's a problem. Okay, fuck it. She'll just be a Twi'lek. You see just like a really stout Twi'lek who's got her head tails kind of like cinched behind her neck, like clearly all business. And she kind of looks up from a droid she was fixing. And she just goes, yeah, all right, I guess. Sure.
I like your attitude. I hope you're ready to rock.
Hey, that your sick hog?
Nobody else's hog is here that I can see.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
We're gonna get along fine. They call me Shatterstar.
Well, Shatterstar, let me introduce you to the Righteous Indignation.
Fuck, that is a sick name for a bike, bro.
Take care of her.
Oh, I will.
She's got allergies.
Don't we all? Yeah. She sneezes into a well-used, like greasy handkerchief, stuffs it in the back of her overalls, and then like kind of under one arm picks the bike up and just carries it up the ramp.
Ooh.
Wow.
The gravs are on. Let's be clear,
okay.
but it still looks rad as hell.
I just shake my head and realize that I am not going to allow democracy to happen again in my criminal enterprises. All right, so I look through the crowd. I imagine I stand swaggeringly. I've got my hands on my hips. It's sort of like the Vic, only everything I'm doing works. And I look through, and the thing I always keep my eyes on anywhere are courtesans, because they're always... There are two brands of courtesan. There are people who are not that bright, and they have a great time doing it, according to this character. The other kind are very smart and realize that that's the position where you can get the most information. And I know so many people have become heads of Falleen corporations by being courtesans who then perhaps someone disappears and then they become the person in charge.
Sure.
So I want to have identified the second smartest courtesan of all of them, the one that's probably the most spy capable, but not the one who's the most hungry to take out Agrippa, because I don't want to fuck with that person. So I'd like a courtesan who I think might be useful as a spy.
Well... Ryan, I think this is a landmark moment. This is the first roll of the game.
Ooh.
So I'm going to need you to put together a dice pool. Let's see. Of your skills, I think this is probably a cunning, possibly a presence.
I think we could play with presence, or if we want to combine things, because it's prone to speeches. I could approach... and give a speech to the courtesans. Like one of those conversations just about the kind of things that I'm looking for and people who are coming through. I need someone who's not afraid of danger, someone who's ready to take risks, a talker and an actor, someone who can feel, someone who knows who they are, and someone who knows what they want, someone who's hungry for a new future, hungry for something better.
All right, I'm going to ask you to give me, you can either do presence and leadership or presence and... probably skullduggery.
I will do presence and leadership. I want to inspire.
Okay.
Inspire. So what do I got to do? So leadership uses presence. So my presence score is 3, and my leadership score is 2.
So what that means is you would normally have 3 green because that's your higher number, but because you have 2 other ranks, that means 2 of those dice get upgraded to yellow dice, proficiency dice. So take 2 yellow and 1 green.
Okay.
I'm going to say because Agrippa's basically told them they have to, you can take 1 boost die, which is the blue D6.
Great.
However, I'm also going to give you 1 setback dice, which is the black dice, because you're looking for the second most conniving person, and that means there are several conniving people looking conniving. And we're going to say this is a 2-star challenge, so please take 2 purple dice.
Okay, and now here's where I get to add something interesting. I have some abilities attached to leadership because I'm so Falleen of myself. I have an ability where I can remove 1 black die when I use a leadership test, and I can add a boost dice, so I can add
Excellent.
1 more blue.
Go for it.
Oh.
Seems like it's going to be a home run.
Let's not make assumptions. Remember, middle management never succeeded getting to the top.
Come on, you did the Braveheart speech. You're fine.
Honestly, the Braveheart of boning is probably where he would like to fall. Jeez. Okay.
So here's where this game's going to be a little more dice county than other games. I need you to ultimately tell me what you rolled in terms of how many successes, how many failures. You can essentially, if you want to do the math for me, successes and failures cancel each other, advantage and threat cancel each other, triumph and despair cancel each other.
Okay, I have 3 successes, I have 3 advantage, and I have 1. This is threat?
Yes, that is correct.
And I have 1 threat.
So the 1 threat will take out one of your advantages. So 3 successes
and 2 advantages.
And 2 advantage. So you definitely pass. I think the advantage that you have particularly in this is the first time you really got to flex this particular muscle. But also all of these sort of spy courtesan types are fucking hungry for some. They see a lot of themselves in you, which is like, oh yeah, you're middle trying to get up. We're also middle trying to get up. So
I'm looking for another me.
Yeah, ultimately. So 3 successes is pretty huge. So that's great. Also, you have 2 advantage, so you can spend advantage in a variety of ways. There are some ways that you can spend it in combat. There's ways you can spend it out. However, since based on also the nature of the show, I would encourage us to think about ways we could do it. I'll offer some, but also if you have some. So I'm going to say with 2 advantages, not only are you able to find that person, but what's the key trait you want the most? Do you want like spy and espionage? Do you want someone who can just disappear into a crowd? Do you want them to be distinctive? I'll basically let you tell me exactly the kind of person you want, and that's who you can have.
Great.
Wow.
Ideally, I want someone who can... It's the combo of like the forgettability of a spy where they can blend in when they need to, but they can also have a conversation, get somebody to like them. It's like what they talked about with the... Matt Damon in the Oceans movies, where they say we need you to show up, we need you to talk to this guy, he needs to like you and immediately forget you, but you're the one setting somebody up for the next thing. Because my goal in my like Falleen brain is, okay, if I've got to get onto this ship and get this crate out, I need somebody on the crew with me, and if I can get the right person to befriend and distract them, then I can swoop in, be ultra charming with a nice setup, and probably walk out with what I need.
Okay, so I'm going to say you find... I think we'll literally just lean on the Matt Damon thing. You find a generically nice guy named Nix. And you can tell that he is a bit of the... he's basically the boyfriend experience. Like, he's that kind of guy where, like, he's a courtesan, but also, like, almost leaning more on the geisha side of things, where it's just like, oh, yeah, oh, really, your day's bad? Oh, that really sucks. That really sucks. Like, let me help you out. Like, you can tell he's... There's just enough behind that, like, smirk that you're like, oh man, this guy's fucking scary, but he seems so generic and disarming. Like, he would be in like a white button-up shirt and like nice khakis or something, like just super, super generic. So yeah, and but you can tell kind of from the way he holds himself, like clearly knows his business. It's Star Wars, so I'm going to say he has like an interesting sort of blue patterned tattoo that kind of runs up his neck. It's not a face tattoo because that'd be hella distracting, but it's, present. So it's an interesting conversation starter, but also not something you could really identify him by.
Great. That's my guy. And I'm like, you sir, Nix, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's my name.
Yeah. See,
that's great. You got it in one.
I notice name tags. I read them and I respect them. I don't just name people who are joining my team. Nix.
You both look down at the folded tag in the corner, and he's like, oh man, glad to hear that.
So let's build an interesting future together, Nix.
That sounds great, sir. I'd very much appreciate that.
Do you fly?
I have flown.
Well, then let's take that ride again. I'm going to offer him a flawlessly manicured hand.
He takes it to your great shock and surprise. Also flawlessly manicured and soft but firm.
I'm definitely going to try to bang this dude on the trip, but in a respectful... Outside of the professional environment, you don't take advantage of courtesans. You got to make them love you. That's the real challenge, and that is definitely Brash's game.
He squeezes your hand and just whispers in your ear, I look forward to the flight. And then the two of you step up onto the ship. So together, you board the best ship, a.k.a. the PT Cruiser. The best ship. You get settled, and you realize that, this is your first mission as a crew. You might need a name. What do you think the name of your crew is?
I just sigh and write the best crew. Plug it into the deathbed.
I like it.
I like where you're going with that. I'm just going to make a quick little change. Just kind of, we're riffing here, and I just enter just in front, I move the cursor to the front and add Vic Denbar and the best crew.
I like it.
Thank you. I'm thank you, Dibs. I don't realize it.
Dibs is like, oh, and you can tell that means always a bridesmaid.
Yeah. And then after Vic has left, because I'm ready to fly.
I'm not hanging around yet.
Yeah, because I'm ready to fly the ship. I take the data pad that I set on the counter down, and I just write in. It's just like the Falling Express is the name of the ship legally. I just set a data pad he could type on where the computer screen was, and Vic did not review. So,
creedthoughts.word.creedthoughts.
Yeah, and then I, if I can, I would like to change the registration to be in my name.
Yeah, I'll let that happen without a dice roll. It seems like he doesn't seem like he would ever think this could happen to him.
He gave me the codes.
And
Someone's got to fly this thing.
Xanatos just Vic, you've got your feet up. Dibs is massaging your shoulders with incredibly firm hands. I think that's maybe why you wanted a bruiser.
I didn't know you had this level of precision in you, Dibs. I was very smart to bring you aboard.
Adam, can you roll me a mechanics check, please, to fix the jukebox? Just kind of as we pan through the ship. We've got Vic hanging out in his bedroom with his feet up. Please roll me. So take your mechanics, and you're going to add your
intelligence is mechanics.
Great. What's your intelligence and what's your mechanics?
My mechanics is 1.
Mm-hmm. I believe your intelligence is 2.
Is my up here? Yes, 2.
So you get 1 green and 1 yellow.
1 green, 1 yellow.
I'm going to give you 1 blue for Dibs helping out, and I need you to
or Shatterstar.
No, Shatterstar's taking care of the bike. Dibs was helping with the boombox.
Jukebox, yeah.
I thought Dibs was massaging my shoulders.
He is now, but earlier he pulled out a wrench.
Okay.
He did some pre-work. And if you could add 1 challenge dice, please, so 1 purple.
All right.
Give those babies a roll.
Oops. Okay, I got 2 successes.
Mm-hmm.
The blue is nothing, and I have a threat.
Okay, so you manage to safely fix the jukebox.
just put it together. Absolutely fine.
You refix it, kind of as closely as you can. However, with your threat, when you finally put it back together and you punch it, you hear
That's the first thing he does.
A voice coming out of it saying, "I don't know who will find this, but perhaps it is worth listening to what I have to say." And with that, a strange voice begins to put odd ideas in your head. We pan forward in the ship, and Brash, you're sitting there, and Xanatos, so you just transferred the ownership of the ship over to you. And Xanatos just kind of chuckles. He says, "We're going to kill that son of a bitch." And with that, you punch it, and the best ship, a.k.a. the Falling Express, a.k.a. the PT Cruiser, blasts off into places unknown.
This episode of Dumb Scum and Villainy features the voices of Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter, Adam McNamara at Adam McNamara 13 on Twitter, and our fantastic Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited by Ryan LaPlante, and all of Dumb Dumbs and Dice's art is by Decapitated Markers at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme song is In Orbit by Chronox, and our ad music is No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, all available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dumb Dumbs and Dice, you can visit our website at dumbdumbdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumbdumbdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumbdumbdice. But most importantly, we've got merchandise at redbubble.com/people/dumbdumbdice, or you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumbdumbdice. That's DUMBDICE. Now get out of my shop. I'm a Toydarian. Your Jedi mind tricks do not work on me.
Dumb Dumbs and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, Long Long, Jason Denson, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumbdumbdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.